I'm just a pill, yes I'm only a pill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee, but I know I'll be along. Yeah, I hope and pray that I'll.
This is Bill Scher on the LiberalOasis radio show, and do you like that? Do you like Obama v. Huckabee? Everyone whining and complaining. This campaign season's going on too long. This is so boring. Nothing's happening. Yeah, it's fun now, ain't it? You know what I particularly like? I'm sorry to talk a little smack about my fellow liberals. I don't care to do that too often, but every so often I need to. I have never cared for the thinking that a black man can't win the presidency. A woman can't win the presidency. America's not ready. You know, America's a bunch of racists and sexists. That can never happen. I'm fine with it, but let's be real here. It's not going to happen. And now you got one of the whitest states in the union, one of the whitest states in the country, giving Barack Obama a solid victory built upon not just rock-ribbed Democrats, but bringing in a whole host of independents as well. You gotta like that. Some of my fellow bloggers weren't really enthralled with Obama in recent weeks. Paul Krugman of the New York Times taking some shots, saying that he's sounding too conservative at times. There's too much empty bipartisan rhetoric, and I don't care for that stuff either, I gotta say. In and of itself, obviously it polls well, people like to hear all the unity talk, but if you want to have a working mandate to govern, you can't just do all the kumbaya stuff. You gotta say what you're gonna do. You have to build a coalition around a set of principles and policies. But this is what Barack Obama had to say after he won Iowa on Thursday.
They said this country was too divided, too disillusioned to ever come together around a common purpose. But on this January night, at this defining moment in history, you have done what the cynics said we couldn't do.
So he's talking about bringing together Democrats, independents, and even some Republicans around common purpose. Well, is that just empty rhetoric? Is that just vagueness? This was what else he had to say on live TV on Thursday.
I'll be a president who finally makes health care affordable and available to every single American the same way I expanded health care in Illinois by bringing Democrats and Republicans together to get the job done. I'll be a president who ends the tax breaks for companies that ship our jobs overseas and put a middle-class tax cut into the pockets of working Americans who deserve it. I'll be a president who harnesses the ingenuity of farmers and scientists and entrepreneurs to free this nation from the tyranny of oil once and for all. And I'll be a president who ends this war in Iraq and finally brings our troops home.
So he brought together a solid coalition of Democrats and independents and even a few Republicans into the Iowa Democratic Caucus around a platform of universal health care, of combating global warming by capping greenhouse gas emissions, ending the addiction to oil, ending the occupation of Iraq, even talking about direct diplomacy with Iran. And now he's not unique in saying this in the Democratic Party. You know, he has essentially the same platform that Hillary Clinton had and John Edwards had. You have a unified Democratic Party around those core principles and policy goals. Obama was just unique in his ability to sell that platform to a broader coalition. which is why I think he's going to be in very strong shape going forward. We're going to talk about how his prospects in New Hampshire with our next guest after the break, Laura Clausen from BlueHampshire.com. But in my personal opinion, and I said this on the Bill Dwight show earlier this week, the general level of satisfaction among Democrats with their choices. The first person that breaks out of the pack, you're likely to see a bandwagon effect because there's unity over the substance. And the person that can marry the style with the substance and shows that he has a stronger chance in November, everyone's going to rally around that guy. Obama has shown his stuff so far. On the Republican side, my comments on the Bill Dwight show and earlier the first night New Year's Eve broadcast, I predicted Obama would win. I thought by an edge. He actually had a stronger victory than I thought. I also predicted Mitt Romney, where I was mistaken. Why? How did I go so wrong? I did not give Iowa Republicans enough credit. I did not think that they would see through the transparent, massive phoniness of Mitt Romney, yet they did. Huckabee got 36% of the vote in Iowa, not 50%. There's a lot of antipathy towards Huckabee in the conservative movement, especially around the corporate types, folks with the money. Romney did win the vote in Iowa amongst folks who earn six figures by a few points. But I had thought that whatever support there was for Fred Thompson and John McCain, they were polling below 10% in recent polls. I presume that would be wasted vote territory, and those folks would coalesce around Romney. But Romney could not close the deal. The guy is just too obviously bereft of principle. You cannot trust what he's going to do. And so those folks, while they didn't like Huckabee, stuck with Thompson, stuck with McCain, to a far lesser extent stuck with Giuliani. You got about 4%. And Romney could not coalesce that support for plurality. So where do the Republicans go from here? Well, that just seems to me to be a total disarray. And let's not even talk about this as far as horse race goes. Let's talk about this as far as policy goes. Mike Huckabee, very socially conservative. Man is not a big fan of gay people. Not a big fan of reproductive choice and reproductive freedom. But his rhetoric leans left on the economy. He talks about how people want to vote for a guy who is more likely to have had his job be laid off than the person doing the layoffs, a la Mitt Romney. He talked about George Bush having an arrogant bunker mentality when it comes to foreign policy. He's leaning left in rhetoric on foreign policy and economic policy, while you have a unified Democratic Party on economic populist themes and a change in foreign policy. That core message, that set of principles, those policy goals are strong across the spectrum. Democrats, independents, even conservatives. These are people who are self-described conservatives that vote for Huckabee, that embrace those populist policies. So now what do conservatives and other Republicans do? Because the diehards, the guys with the money, the guys on the right-wing talk radio, they cannot abide by what Huckabee is selling. They're going to tear that movement apart, it looks like. This is as fractured as they have been, while Democrats are as strong as they have been. That bodes very well for November. Not to get cocky. Presuming Obama is the nominee, he has never had to deal with the right-wing smear machine. He dealt with Alan Keyes as a Senate opponent in Illinois, and that was like swatting a fly off your shoulder. He's never had the full force of the conservative movement come down on him. And all the unity talk will only go so far in rebutting that. He's going to need a lot of help to true squad all the muck that's going to come out of them. But he got a bit of muck in Iowa, don't forget. And he threw some elbows, and he rose above it. And he kept moving forward and stayed on his message and kept selling his principles. And it did work. We got a debate tonight. We got back-to-back Republican and Democratic debates in New Hampshire on ABC. Obviously, if someone makes a big mistake, that could change things. But it's looking pretty good for Obama. It's looking pretty bad for Republicans overall. But let's see what folks on the ground in New Hampshire have to say. After the break, we'll be talking to Laura Clausen, both dailycoast.com and bluehampshire.com. This is Bill Scher on the Liberal Oasis radio show, WHMP, News, Information, and the Arts.